Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me once again is my go-to podcast compounder, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how are you doing, pal?
Fine is red wine?
Fine as a little bit of wine in the summertime.
That just all sounds depressing. I mean, wine in the summertime, okay, but
Sure, yeah.
fine. Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Doing excellent, my friend. Excellent. How are you this evening?
I'm fine. Now that you said that, now I feel like I have to throw it back at you. No, did you ever see Italian Job, Joe? We ever
Do
talk
I need
about
to
this?
get our hype song back on?
No, we don't. We'll get muted for sure. Okay, if you ever saw Italian Job, they're like FINE stands for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Which I was like, that seems like a really weird thing to have as like your acronym for FINE. I don't know. It's still a pretty good movie. I like it. I like a heist movie though. You know me, Joe. Anyway,
A little bit of suspense on the edge of your seat. Will they or won't they? Oh man.
Charlize Theron is a safecracker, and so is her dad. Anyway, you should check out Italian Job. It's pretty good. It's no Ocean's 11. I love Ocean's 11. That's like my favorite heist movie of all time. And I'm talking about the one with George Clooney. I'm not talking about the Rat Pack one that was way back in the day where they burn all the money in the end. What kind of ending for a heist movie is that? It's like, no, I want to.
What's the point of the heist?
I want to see it anyway. Which I just watched a Rick and
Italian
Morty.
Job.
Yes, I watched a Rick and Morty episode recently where Rick was talking about how he hates heist movies and he thinks they're all stupid. And I understand the frustration with it, because in a heist movie you like want to see them succeed no matter what, or like the heist already happened by the time the main person's explaining it to like the cops or the bad guy or whatever. I still love heist movie though. I love it. Feels good, man. I love a good steal. Anyway, if you're listening,
power to the people. Suck it, big banks.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi everyone. If you're listening to us, we talk about games and movies and TV shows and Disney and all this stuff. And this week, it's a little more freeform because, something came out this week that I do want to talk about. I made a video about it already, an unboxing video, but now I've had some hands-on time with it. I'm talking about the Xbox Series X, and I always feel like I have to do that, like X, like I don't know why it's like X-Men or something.
I don't know. We gotta be careful. Is this some sort of gang symbol or a symbol for something else?
I apologize.
I think
if it is.
they're signaling for cranes. One of this means something. I forget what it is. I just go by the down or up. I mean, what do you want?
I forgot to tell people in another life I was a crane operator, and that was my favorite.
Believe it or not, believe it or not, I've operated a crane or two in my day.
Oh, I'm not talking. No, Joe. We're not talking about you. We're talking about me. Anyway, but
I know. But interesting fact about Joe, no one ever knew. I've operated a crane before.
How did it go?
Yeah.
Did it operate well?
I only killed one person.
That's good.
But it was the crane's fault. I swear the joystick jammed.
You're like, okay.
I was actually really good at it. It's like a giant video game, just a lot more pressure.
I've also heard that nowadays that they've made it so like with surgery and stuff, there's a lot more. Sometimes there's more computers involved. And they're saying more and more people who are like apt or have an aptitude towards video games are actually pretty good at that. And I would think that'd be pretty fun until like that person in the back of your, the area or the nurses come up and they're like, you don't get like a game over, start over, like this person's life. And I'll be like, no, I'll just reset it. We'll just restart this one. And you're like, no, he's gone. I'll be like, what do you mean? There's no more. I can't. Oh no!
You clunked him on the head with a beam.
Exactly.
He's dead.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't kill him. The beam in the fall did.
It's funny you say that, though, Jimmy. So this is freeform.
Freeform.
A little bit of a rabbit hole. So me being decent at video games, decent. I'm no you, but I got my way around with controller.
No, man, I'm garbage, man. You're good.
It does translate. I mean, nowadays with the technology and like equipment coming from the construction industry, anything like in the that's recent, the joysticks and the controls. I mean, it is very video game-esque. Like when you're driving down the road, you see some guy operating the big Caterpillar excavator. For those that don't know, the big arm with the bucket on the end. Anywho, 2 joysticks. You're controlling the swing of the cab. You're controlling the boom up and down. You're controlling the jib back and in. And then you have another curl on one joystick that handles the bucket. Curl in, curl out. So jib and bucket on one control, cab and boom on the other. So you got to memorize that, and then essentially it becomes an extension of your body.
Yeah.
Same way a character in a video game becomes with the controller. It's pretty cool, and the precision is insane. You can pop a bottle cap off of a beer.
Amazing.
That's how precise you can get with those machines these days. But it is cool. It is cool. It's amazing how all sorts of things like that cross over. So video games, parents can't say that they're worthless. Not
Yeah.
only do they challenge you thinking a little bit, there's a social aspect, and then one day maybe a career aspect. But bam.
Yeah, all I'll say is back in my high school aviations class, I was good at flying or piloting the fake helicopter because they like you'd sit in a chair and then like the teacher came up with like a helicopter. He's like, all right, if I wanted to make it go like this or whatever, and it would have, we'd pretend to have like two pedals and two like levers or whatnot. And I was pretty good at it, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I could get a job flying an Apache," you know. And I'm just kidding.
Yeah, which has a lot more switches.
Yeah, lots of switches,
and a couple of them for missiles. So
yeah,
not a bad.
Oh, the Apache. If you want me to get into the Apache AH-64D variant back in like 2006 or 7, buddy, I'd have you covered or whatever. I don't know.
The fact that you had access to an aviation class almost makes me upset.
Oh man, and then we went to like this little airport that's nearby for like a field trip, and it was fascinating. Like some of the old planes they have stored over there that like should not fly anymore. It's like, this is gorgeous and huge. I was like, but yeah, it's probably not, can't really fly much anymore.
Well, it's like I know you recently did an Indiana. Before I get into that helicopter, how does that work? You have two pedals, you have a joystick, and you also have a lever by the seat for like, which must control like your up and down function.
Yeah, it
Right?
was. I think it was something
And your
like
pedals
that.
is
Yeah,
left and right rotation, and then your
yeah.
joystick is like a pitch thing.
Yeah, it's like a pitch and yaw, I believe.
And now, does that actually move the prop on top of the helicopter, the large rotor?
I think maybe a little bit. I don't know if that's if it really tilts it just a little bit. Yeah, to kind of like get you going forward. Because like I know a lot of times in like video games, like sometimes the helicopters just go like perfectly straight. Like, and sometimes like when you want to really pick up speed, you want them to kind of go a little bit of an angle because that's how they like would, if they were going faster, it'd be like propelling wind down at an angle behind them, kind of like Superman, like forward. So it's like, it's really fascinating. Like that, the stuff it takes to pilot any of those things. We're talking, this is Veterans Day, by the way. So thank you, veterans. We appreciate you. We salute all of you. But like, think of how hard it is to pilot any of that stuff. It's just like,
yeah, it's technical. You gotta be on your A game. It's no joke. It's not. Consequences are grave, right?
Yes, they are.
Funny thing is, recently for my work, we completed the construction of a hangar at an airport just north of here, and in central Wisconsin, and it houses one helicopter for medvac.
Oh, nice.
And then it also has a big fixed wing hangar.
Oh, okay.
And hangar doors, by the way, insane.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just a giant panel wall with two hydraulic rams on either end that open and close that thing. It's really cool. But so Haley does a lot of work for my company, photography wise, my wife. So she'll go take final photos for marketing and things of that nature of completed projects. And we got to go in there, and she got to take photos of everything. And they didn't have a fixed wing yet, but they were in the process of buying a jet. And then they had the secondary helicopter, the backup one, because the main one, which is a lot bigger and kind of cool, was being serviced.
Oh, sure.
For yearly service or whatever. So still, yet alone, the secondary one was pretty dope in its own right. And we got to get like up close to it. And Haley was like getting photos of it and stuff. I have some photos of her I should share, but it's pretty cool. They are an amazing feat of human engineering, probably even more so than a darn plane, but delicate.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, no matter how like strong or like fast and stuff they make it, it's down to like two spinning like fans basically, like one that's on the top and one that's on the back, and it's like if one of those things has a problem, it's not good. So you don't want to be stuck in one that's got a prop problem. Which I don't know how this turned into helicopter talk, but it just did.
Look out for geese. Well, I mean, video games and control, and
that's true.
Machinery control and careers and how it can apply.
That's true. We're helping people's futures.
You had mentioned from your aviation class going to a local airport and seeing some of the old planes that they had on storage and such. I know you did, and it got me thinking. Recently, you did an Indiana Jones podcast, right?
Yeah, last
Mr.
week.
Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Harrison Ford.
Hmm.
So coincidentally, he originally went to college at Ripon College here in Wisconsin,
Oh really?
kind of just southwest of Green Bay, still on the eastern side of the state near Lake Winnebago, kind of that area for
Hmm.
those not familiar. Um, so he went there for college. I think he only made it like a year and a half, 2 years or something. I forget what he was going for. He talks about it in interviews often, and he never misses a. It seems like he'll often maybe poke fun at the fact that he didn't make it there. I forget what happened, whether he failed out or he just kind of said screw it, I'm out, kind of a thing. But anyway, and then he went on to acting, and got came across great opportunities like Star Wars and such, and Indiana Jones, and a bunch of movies in between and downstream. But he also comes back, I think, pretty much every year to go to the EAA Air Show in Oshkosh, which is just east of Ripon, near Lake Winnebago there. So, but he had like the P-51 Mustang. I'm sure everybody's heard about that in the news. He had like a crash with it or something like that. But
Mm.
I think he's actually flown that at
Oh
EAA.
cool.
He'll fly into EAA like himself, and apparently he's a big pilot's buff himself, or plane buff. So, just an interesting little tidbit. And did I mention that's where my sister went to school
Oh really? Yeah, yeah. I
for
don't
her
think you mentioned
undergrad?
that.
Yeah, yeah. So they talk about it all the time, but I don't think Harrison Ford is too keen on ripping.
Well, it's interesting. I was reading an article about him a little while ago, and the big kind of takeaway he was saying for like acting and stuff, he was like, I wasn't an overnight success. And it's funny that you mentioned this because he's like, I was this close to just packing it up and going back to like carpentry because he was really into building houses and he was really into that stuff. So he was into like carpentry and like, airplanes and all that stuff. Like acting wasn't like the thing for him. It just took a long time to get to it, like, or to build up. And then when it finally did, it like really kicked off for him. So it's like it's really interesting to hear this guy's got like a lot of different passions and stuff, and how it like almost didn't work out because like
Most definitely.
you hear about like Star Wars back in the day, and you're probably like, what is this? Like what am I even doing? And then when it comes out and it's like that like craziness, it's like, oh my gosh, like your life is now this. This is all you. You got to do this
So
now.
he apparently played a bellboy in a movie for George Lucas just prior to George Lucas, for coming out with the Star Wars idea and everything. And apparently, so he had played that role. I forget what that movie was called, but he played a bellboy in there. A couple lines, nothing major. And then he was still in L.A. Yeah, L.A. I believe. Yeah, because he went West Coast instead of East when he flipped the coin. Best two out of three. Anywho, so he was working somewhere that George Lucas was, and what Harrison was doing was carpentry work. He was doing some remodeling to the place where they were actually having their meeting. And I think Lucas actually walked in, and they were in the middle of conducting interviews or auditions for the roles for Star Wars. And George Lucas didn't want anybody from a previous movie for this. He wanted like somewhat unknowns for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally broke down. And one day on the way in, he's like, Harrison, let's go. And kind of just pulled him in, and that was that.
Oh yeah, because I remember. I think was it American Graffiti? Did that come
That's what it
beforehand?
was.
Yeah,
Yes.
because like
Yep.
Harris
That's
was
what it
like,
was.
he's like, George, give me a chance, man. And George is like, I'm not doing anybody. No one's been in it before. You can't beat it now. And then he finally was like,
Exactly.
fine, you can start
Yeah.
reading with all these people for Luke and all this stuff. It's just like he's just kind of
Yeah.
he's like, I'm gonna be there one of these days. So
But the
good on
between
him.
stuff was carpentry work.
Yeah.
I admire that of him. He's yeah, people that are artistic, but actually also have other skilled facets to them. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That will never be me. I'm just kidding. I'll if I can have just even the artistic thing down, I'll have something going for me. And they'll be like, "What's your passion or your hobby?" I'll be like, "I got annual passes to Disneyland. Like I go there a lot. Every cast member knows me, and they're like, "Oh gosh, he's back." And I'm like, "Hey guys!" They're like, "Oh, please stop asking us to ride the rides with you." I'm like, "Please, no one will ride with me." Yeah. Which, by the way, for people who are just listening to it, I'm wearing my periodic table of pirates shirt, which I'm pretty sure I got from Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a pretty fun shirt. I've got this one and a dinosaur one as well, and it's just
Yeah.
it serves the nerd in me, my old sciencey background.
What's the joke in there though? What's the joke? Gold. Someone. And then there's one that's like R.
Yeah, well, so they've got a couple, like, for instance, PK here is powder keg. Isn't that fun? They got their every one of them is pretty different. I think gold is actually the same. Is it AU? It might be on here. I don't know. But it is. It's a fun shirt. Anywho, so before we actually get fully into the show, I want to resurrect a little something, a little game for you, Joe. Something we used to play quite a bit for our listeners who've been around for a while, where I will
Please tell me it's not too obscure.
It's not going to be too obscure, I promise. And I hope I haven't done it before, and I'm so sorry if I've done it before.
Platypus.
However, it's a game where I choose an animal. Joe gets a couple of chances to kind of figure it out, narrow it down, and then you guys can play along at home and see if you get it as well. As long as Joe doesn't get too specific with the geography, because I won't be able to say if it's at the bottom of this valley or the top of this specific mountain. If he's like, would it be at the top of Mount Rushmore? I'd be like, probably no. So broad terms, we're not doing Irrawaddy Dolphin, which the Irrawaddy Irma thing that worked out in Disney World, I couldn't have planned it better myself. I'm so proud of myself. That's a Jungle Cruise reference for people who don't know. Anyway, Joe, would you like to take a first stab at guess that animal or whatever we call this game?
What do you mean a first stab? I don't even have a clue yet.
Yeah, I forgot. I have to give you clues. Okay. This quadruped is. I heard the inhale. It's a quadruped. I'll say that much. It's a quadruped. It
means 4 legs, people.
Yep. For those playing at home, it's like if you took 2 bipeds and you just smash them together. Quadruped. No, it sounds like a human centipede sort of thing. Don't do that. Quadruped, carnivore, elusive. There you go. Quadruped, carnivore, elusive. Maybe that's what I should do, is just give you 3 words.
Snow leopard.
That's the game, everybody. I'm sorry. That's honestly what it was. I was hoping you'd go regular leopard first.
The second you say elusive, I'm like, what's the most elusive quadruped carnivore? It's not a bear or anything. And I'm like, elusive. Oh, yeah. What are they? Yeah. Rarely ever seen and barely ever photographed.
Oh, they're gorgeous. I think there's one at a zoo near here, which I feel kind of
bad
about.
There's one in the Cincinnati Zoo.
They're so cool. Sure. They're so cool.
But they're also, they don't have high numbers in the wild too.
No.
So I think we try to intervene and have some in captivity for the preservation, I guess.
Well, okay. So I've been watching, and this is my shameless plug for this show. That doesn't need a shameless plug. Everybody's been watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. That's great. You should watch it. But that's not the show I'm talking about. Please check out Disney's Animal Kingdom. It's a National Geographic show that's on Disney Plus as well. It is fascinating. And the reason I bring it up is because they talk about some of their more endangered species on this, which, by the way, the veterinarians and the zookeepers at this place are incredible. Like, they're working with all these different animals. And I was just like, imagine if you're a vet and one day it's like you're working with a rhino and the next day it's a manatee and the next day it's like a hornbill and you're like, But they talked about the numbers for like black rhino and Sumatran tigers and stuff. Like, they said something like this. There are like 400 Sumatran tigers out in the wild, and they have like 4 at Disney World. So they have like, is it 1% of all Sumatran tigers are at Disney World? I was like that's crazy. Like, and the white and the black rhino especially, numbers are abysmally low. But if you ever want to just get a better appreciation for these creatures and see them up close and personal, you can you see how wonderful they are, and also how they've trained all of them crazily enough, like how they train like an elephant to get into into a cage to like kind of stick its ear out so they can examine it and stuff. Like it's it's amazing. It's just it's so cool. So check it out, Disney's Animal Kingdom. You will not regret it. It's super good. But yeah, so Joe, very good on the snow leopards. They don't have any snow leopards at Disney, not yet, but that would be pretty
I
cool.
did not intend for that to be so anticlimactic and short.
That's okay. That's why I gave a big explanation at the end. So that way other people at home aren't like, dang, that was quick. Usually these take a lot longer. It's either I go really obvious or really obscure. And if I do the obvious one, it's quick. If it's obscure, it's frustrating because it's like, how would I ever guess it was like this? It was like a pygmy mouse or something. Like, you know.
For the record, for those immature listeners that said that's what she said while we were talking about all of this, shame on you.
Wait, who said
that? I know there's somebody somewhere. Maybe that makes me immature because I put two and two together and thought somebody's thinking it.
You're just young and hip. That's all you are. That's all you are. So
yeah.
I also wanted to not to talk about animals and helicopters this week, which now that I think about it, a snow leopard
both pretty
flying,
cool topics.
Yeah, snow leopard flying a helicopter would be pretty dope.
Oh my gosh, lethal combination, an Apache helicopter.
Exactly, because even if it went down, they'd go try to take it out, but it would be gone. And like it would just be out. Elusive. It's out in the wild. Yeah, man, it's elusive. It's sneaky cat. I like big cats. I don't like. I've said this. I've gone on record plenty of times saying this. I don't like regular house cats. I've worked with cats a lot in the past. I don't like little cats. I like big cats though. I would totally be like if I could have a tiger in my house, I totally would be on my bed and I would snuggle with it. I'd be like, he's just sweet. It's like Arcanine, man. That's what I really want.
In later news, dead body of Mr. Good found in home.
No, in later news, a great dynamic duo vigilante team of Jimmy and his tiger have snuck out and are saving the city from people who don't understand social distancing. I feel like everybody back up. Or back up, my tiger is hungry.
Social what? What is this distancing thing you're speaking of?
I really wish we had more artists who watched or listened to this. That way I could get that. It's like myself and my tiger out there with masks on, and we're just policing. We're like, everybody stand back.
Listen, this whole pandemic thing, I'm just saying, the cold's going to kill it. It won't survive the cold.
Don't listen to Joe. Don't listen to it. That's what it wants you to think. That's what the virus wants you to think. Anyway, I asked our lovely Legionnaires, Joe, because I know you probably have some questions about this too. I just asked them to send in questions because I was like, this week should be kind of fun. I like doing Q&As, we used to do them a little more frequently, or like we usually do them at the end of the show, but I was like, let's just make it like a whole episode. And we had a few come in. These are from the J-Strom, and this is about the Xbox Series X. Again, I did an unboxing video, so if you want to like see the actual thing, you can go watch that. It's pretty funny. I hope you enjoy it. I turned it around.
Satisfying? Peeling the plastic?
It's pretty good.
Nice box. Well packaged?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It was actually minimalistic on the packaging, which I actually appreciated. Because sometimes you open these things, it's like a Reese's peanut butter cup, which I love Reese's, but there's so much like waste with it. With this one, there was not a lot of like refuse, which is nice.
I like that. Hey.
Yep.
Have you done the old trick with the ping pong ball?
Like hovering it over the top?
Yeah, have you put the ping pong ball on top?
No, I haven't. Hover? So you guys can't really see it, but there's like, this little end table here. It's actually right under here, and someone was really worried that there wasn't enough space for the hot air to go out. But actually, this whole chunk right here is actually like hollowed out, and there's like a little gap right here, so the air comes up and out of it and goes out the sides. So it's totally fine. But I don't know if I could put a ping pong ball in there. Maybe I could.
When I get mine, it's going to be a permanent fixture on top. Ping pong ball.
I hear
every time it's on, it floats.
I hear the PlayStation 5 actually just hovers. That's how loud it is. It just hovers in the air now. I got you, PlayStation. I'm just kidding. I bet you're great. I bet you don't make any noise. Which is a question that comes in from J-Strom. He says, Jimmy, how loud is your Series X? When I first turned mine on, there was an automatic update, and I could hear the fan during this, but afterwards it went silent and has been silent ever since. I played some Watch Dogs today. I transferred it over to it because I wanted to see what it would like play like and everything. I didn't hear a noise. Not like I can't even put my hand over like the fan and stuff. I was like, you good? Too hot? You quiet? It's silent. It's been silent for me.
Was the fan running at the time?
No, it was. We were like mid game and stuff. It was great. It was wonderful. It's nice. It just feels like, and the noises and stuff that it makes, like when you turn it on, turn it off, it's like the Xbox One. The only thing, Joe, that I wish about this console is I don't know what's up with like the white in the controller and on the actual console for like the LED or the light up. I just don't know why they didn't do green. Like, what? Why is it in the last 2 generations
You
they've
missed
been
the
the?
green factor,
I
huh?
missed that was like Xbox's thing. They're like, we're the green guys, and
You're right.
I like the green. But anyway,
Yeah.
great question, and Joe, you'll love it because it is silent. You can't hear a thing. He said also he wanted to know what kind of differences have you noticed with Watch Dogs Legion going from Xbox One to the Series X. I noticed a lot of ray tracing. I don't know, the puddles,
Cool.
Joe. I can see a lot of really good reflections in the puddles. I noticed a few more details. There seems to be a bit more depth and contrast from the Xbox One moving over to the Series X when I'm playing the game itself. Uh, I don't know if the frames, I'm not been able to monitor if the frames have gone up or not, but it seems to be running pretty smooth. And one thing that I really enjoy is that the new controllers, which are just so nice, Joe. I mean, they're pretty much the
Are they
same.
the same?
They're pretty much the same, and in my video, which Joe, you're gonna watch after this, so it'll be fine. The thing I like the most about them, well, okay, two things I really like. The rumble feels really nice in it. It feels a bit different, and it doesn't the rumble in my old Xbox One controller when it goes off now, it's like like it's like it's dying because I've used it for so long. But I like the rumble in this. It feels really nice. But the thing I like the most is on the actual parts where your palm goes and where the triggers are. I don't know if you can see them. It might be kind of hard to see like through this, but they have little grips on all of them. There's like a texture on all of it, and it's
Is
really
it
nice.
rubber?
And what was that?
Is it rubber?
No, it's like it's part of it. It's part of the plastic. So there's like these little grippies. Again, I don't know if you'll be able to see this at all. Probably not. But just trust me. There are grips on the actual triggers, a little bit on the bumpers as well, and right here where your palms go. So when it sits in your hand, it's like it sits real nice, and it's like ooh, ooh. And it's the first
But
new
size
controller.
wise and fitment, it's pretty much the same
Yeah, I was
as
gonna say it on my other one here.
Xbox One.
But it's
Hmm.
the nice thing too is that like I don't know, it's something you're used to, but it's like a brand new controller for me and I haven't had one since the Xbox One. So you also
Yeah.
it comes with this. I think I can use my mic plugin thing too because this is what they used to have just on the Xbox Ones. You had to buy like their special plugin, but now it also comes with this little audio jack. So I'm pretty sure you can just
Oh.
use whatever audio mic you have. I might switch the little controller thing over because I can mute myself or I can turn up the game volume or turn up my the people in the party chat volume. I love having that ability to just like
I
manipulate that all
I pretty
quickly.
much flat out. So the stock Xbox One controller didn't have the actual audio jack. You had to have the custom thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then you buy an aftermarket controller or any other Microsoft Xbox One controller that's not the one that comes with it. It always had the plugin.
Oh really? Oh, see, I never had that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because I know, because yeah, I go through controllers a little faster than most. Yeah, so I know pretty much all my other ones. I'm pretty sure they have the audio jack. But the thing is, I think the mixer is a must. Like especially
Yeah.
if you're doing party chats, you gotta have that ability to turn up game volume or lessen party chat, lessen volume overall, all that. Plus, then you got a slider on your headset probably. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a must.
Yeah, see, I didn't have a slider on my headset and I didn't want to buy a new one, so I'm just like, I'll just transfer that over. But I also bought a charge kit, which I haven't opened yet because the thing actually came with 2 AA Duracell batteries. And I was like, whoa,
Of
okay,
course.
that's nice. I was like, that's kind of cool. I didn't expect it, honestly. But yeah, I like the charge pack and stuff. But so far, it's mostly just been Watch Dogs Legion, and it's been running real well. There's not more to it than that. I know a lot of people picked up Assassin's Creed Valhalla. A lot of people seem to be enjoying it. I've heard a little bit of a dissenting opinion. I haven't played it myself. Like I said to many people, I played through, and for a long time, there was an Assassin's Creed poster that hung up right there. But I played through so many of them, Joe. I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. I'm okay waiting for this game to go down in price, especially if it's longer potentially than Odyssey, which the last game took roughly 50 to 60 hours to beat the main campaign. Like they kind of forced you to play side missions to get strong enough to actually do the main story missions, which kind of frustrates me because I want side missions to be like optional as opposed to be like, well, you better do this because you're not strong enough. So I decided to wait on this one and play Watch Dogs Legion, which I've been having a blast with. So, and now I'm waiting for Cyberpunk, which unfortunately got pushed back a little bit, but that's okay. Let them take their time. That's what I say. I just wish I could be playing that soon, because I'm like, I wish I could. But modern technology, it baffles me, Joe. I was going into here because I was like, oh, I want to play like Watch Dogs Legion, and like you go into your game and apps, and I was like, oh, they're not on there obviously because it's a new console. But I'd signed in to it, and I could also use my phone to sign into it, it's just crazy to me. But then I can download that game because they're backed up on my, the cloud or wherever else, and I just download it from there and my save file and everything, and then it's just like
Is it faster that way?
it's. Is it faster? Do you mean like to download it that way?
Like the download of the game on the new console, is it faster because it's already been
I don't
put
know,
on?
and the other problem is I didn't have a direct wire for it, so it probably would have been faster than I had it going. I had a wireless because I was just like, I'm just going to try this out. I don't want to mess with my Ethernet setup is a little bit crazy right now, so I was like, I'm not going to add something else here until I kind of transition fully over. I'm not sure if it's faster, but that's a good question. I just thought it's nuts that like I can download my information completely digitally from one physical thing to another. Like I understand it, but at the same time, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the age we live in. Because it used to just be like, you take that CD and you just put it in the new console, which I could still do for the games that I actually have like physical copies of. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I was like,
I
huh.
often wonder, so if you have an external hard drive, so what if my Xbox just says, you know what, Joe? It's been long enough. I've had it. I'm done. I'm done. You're not even that good. I'm quitting. And it just peters out and dies. Am I still able to get all my stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, and I might be wrong on this, it seems like it's saved to a profile of yours if you have it enabled to like a cloud. Like the cloud, like I said, like my situation was, because it was able to see all the games that I owned digitally and could
Mm-hmm.
re-download there. So
Okay.
I also wonder too if like your physical copies, like for some of the games that I have plenty of Xbox One games that I have physical copies of. I'm sure my saved data is somewhere saved, like in a cloud, or I can upload that saved data to the cloud and then re-download onto this because I do want to try to take some of these older games like Assassin's Creed Unity, which apparently runs super well on the Series X, but didn't run super well back on Xbox One. So it's like that game that came out at the turn when the Xbox One came out, like or a year after it came out, now is kind of getting like more love or something like that. It's just nuts. It's just crazy. But yeah, I'm excited, man, and I'm hoping one day you'll get one. But the nice thing is you don't need to get one to play. There's more cross-play functionality. Most all their games are coming to um, Xbox One anyway. I don't know how long that'll go for. Like, I don't know if that'll be a couple of years or if they're going to do that indefinitely. I don't know. I don't know. I get it. It's part of their marketing strategy. So good on you. Good on you,
Well, and
Microsoft. You know what
it's
I'm saying?
tough right now. I mean, I can't really get my hands on one for who knows how long.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why, because I had a lot of people. It's so funny, like, no, I feel like I almost have to justify why I got this thing, but this is like the first console generation where I feel like people have been like, well, why are you getting this? Why are you getting this now? I got it now because I want to play Cyberpunk eventually on something that won't, my computer would not handle it well. And I know that for a while, I don't think it'll be easy to come by. So I was like, I'll just wait for it. And Joe, maybe when Halo Infinite rolls around, like they might do a bundle with that. I really won't be surprised to see that. Like the game
I don't really
bundled
care
together.
about costs or anything like that. It's more like, is it available? Can I get
Exactly.
one in a couple days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So like, and you buy games. So say I'm not able to get my Xbox One X or Xbox Series X.
There you go. I know the names. It's hard.
Shame on them. Anyway, say I'm not able to get the Series X until um, way after Cyberpunk, which Cyberpunk's currently slated for what now? Was
December 10th or something like that.
okay, and I don't think I'll have one by then. The way things are shaping up. So I mean, I buy it. I buy the Xbox One digital copy,
Yeah.
but I'll still get the same quality as if I bought it digitally on the Series X for Series X, or is there a drawback to buying the Xbox One version and then?
No. So basically, from what I understand, some games like that, or Watch Dogs Legion, or Assassin's Creed Valhalla, have this thing called Smart Delivery. So basically, what that means is that if you purchased it on an Xbox One and then you did upgrade to Xbox Series X, it will perform supposedly better on that because it's a stronger console. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you do buy it for Xbox One and you want to like move your save and stuff forward, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to do that. So don't
Put it right on the
yeah,
new Series
don't
X,
worry
and
about it.
it'll perform as good as it would have
You bought it
if
on
I
the Series
bought it
X
on the Series X.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll
So I'm
still.
not going to lose any quality.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, you're also moving from like if you do play it first on like Xbox One, like and then you jump up to Series X, you'll probably notice a lot more in detail and maybe even the performance.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's the hope, right? We don't know that to be sure yet because like, just because we say it's a better, stronger thing, sometimes people on PC who have the greatest PCs have issues with games because they're not optimized for it. So, I'm curious to see that, but I think it'll be nice because it'll be a step forward for you. Like with me in Watch Dogs Legion, like I noticed things that are better. It didn't like make the game suddenly way better. It's just like, oh, it looks better, seems to run better. It's good. So yeah, that's kind of my thought. So I don't know, and there won't be a game that is exclusive to Series X for a long time, probably. Maybe not ever. Like I don't know. Their system, their style, their strategy is interesting to me. Like I said,
I would agree.
I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see.
Yeah, interesting. There was something else I was thinking of there too. Yeah, I'll think of it.
Okay. Next question comes in from Missile Maid. She asks us, how are you finding the surface of the console as far as fingerprints go? Not that you'll ever be touching it after setting it up. I didn't really notice it so much. I honestly think that popped up more on the Xbox One with like the glossy finish on like that half of it. That's glossy, like the original one. This one I didn't really notice. And the cool thing is that it kind of has this same kind of finish on it where I don't like, okay, it's matte, right? But like it still feels like smooth. So it is like a matte finish, but it also like it almost pass as glossy. And I think it throws me off because I have the grippies on the back. So it's like this stuff that's wrapped around the whole thing. And the thing actually weighs a little south of 10 pounds. It's 9.8 pounds. But so it's just this tiny, like it's this little obelisk thing. It's like I showed in the video. It's like a little taller than a gallon of milk. Like it's a weird little shape. But again, I like it. And I was thinking if I was holding the PS5, which has got like the big fans and stuff, or the big fins.
Looking.
Yeah, but I'm curious to see like, one day if and when I get that, like if I'll change my tune on and I'll really like that. I don't know. I just know that this one fits in with my setup, the little I have, much more economically. I'm not trying to show this off. Like the PS5 is like, look at me, I'm this big like crazy looking console, where Series X is like, put me off to the side and let's do this. Like it's more of like it's like a workhorse. It's like, I'm not here to be flashy. I'm just here. I'm here to make things run real well. And you're like,
yeah. Does the
thanks.
grill on top light up?
It does not, but it has this kind of like these so it has like a bunch of those little holes, right? And it has like a little bit of green on the inside. So if you look at it just the right way, it kind of looks green. But no, I don't think it lights up. Like I said, it seems like you took this, like they ripped this out of a huge PC. That's what it looks like. Like they took a section of that PC and were just like, another thing that I love, internal power brick stuff, which I think they figured out with the Xbox One S or whatnot. But I still have my power brick because I have the original Xbox One. But now that like it's internal, it's just a cord now. I don't have like the big power brick that I have to like plug the power brick in and then plug that in.
Yeah, so, the power brick. Or if you travel with it ever, or you're going somewhere to stay for an extended period, it's nice to have it all self-contained with nothing but HDMI and power.
Yep, exactly. I love it.
The power brick was like a whole nother Xbox you're taking with you, for crying out loud.
And I did it plenty of times.
It must also do surge protection, I assume.
Maybe, yeah, potentially. But I know that I traveled my Xbox One all the time, and it got a little tedious. But at the same time, I traveled and I used it. And again, I tell people this: I didn't use it every day for 7 years, but the majority of those days, probably like 95%, if not more, of those days, I used it for one thing or another. Yeah, but anyway, so that's why I was like, when Series X came around, I'm like, yeah, totally. Like Xbox has been good to me, and I enjoy it, and I also just can't wait to play some of these games at the highest level that gaming can be on a console. Now I know a lot of people out there are like, yay, PC is the greatest. Now I've been talking to people who love PC, but they say that the stuff that is in this Xbox Series X would run you probably north of $1,200 roughly. So that right there just goes to show that Xbox probably taking a hit on a lot of this stuff. Potentially, like when you sell these consoles, they always take a hit, but like with this, you kind of get a better feeling for how much potentially they are. That's because
Why?
Well, the why, it comes into the software, my friend, because you take a hit on the hardware, but then you make it up in the software. So if Xbox gets us, or Microsoft gets us to buy all their games, especially like digital versions of them for like first party and stuff like that, that is stuff that's like going right back to them. And think of the millions and millions and millions of copies sold of any given game. If they can get you to buy most of those copies on their system, that is where
Mhm.
you start to get the returns. And I believe I could be completely wrong
It
on this. This is my
makes up for a one-time purchase that somebody's going to do once every 7 years.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So that's why exclusives are a big deal, because it's like that's why Sony, does so well for example, because they kind of like, you buy it once, but then you're gonna buy, all right, what are all your Sony games? Horizon Zero Dawn, okay, that's a Sony game. Like God of War, Bloodborne, Persona 5, like it's all just like it's all on there. You're not getting it on Xbox. So that's why people want exclusives, because they want to feel like it's like a down payment on the future. And because I love Halo and Gears, I was gonna like get an Xbox, to start off with. But eventually, I'll get a PlayStation 5 probably when it comes down in price, and they bundle it with God of War and Horizon, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. The weird thing is though, Joe, and I've talked about this a few times, there isn't for me personally, not a thing on either of these consoles that was like I needed to get it to play it day one. Now, there are people on PlayStation who are playing the new Miles Morales game, which also came out on PlayStation 4, but there's Demon Souls. I don't care about it. I'm just honest, I don't care about Demon Souls. But there wasn't something like day one that you needed to play. And I know that people have also said, well, not every console generation comes out with like that one killer thing, because I know people are going to come at me in the comments. But I just, it's strange. We were expecting Halo Infinite, and that got pushed back, which I think was good. I think it's a good thing. But, it was like, there wasn't, I guess, Godfall on PlayStation 5. I don't think that's really something that people were like, I needed to get it to play it, even though we
Looks
looked at
cool
that one.
though.
It does look cool. Yeah, but yeah, like Microsoft didn't have anything like that. However, they purchased a ton of studios, so I'm really hopeful that, like, over the years, I'll be like, oh yeah, like, cool, I get to play this and I get to play that. And, even though they'll be on probably Xbox One and PC as well. So this is, like I said, it's my Cyberpunk machine. I'm just waiting for Cyberpunk now, so I can have it, because like I said, my old Nightshade here, my old PC. Well, I don't know if she'd be able to handle that too well right now nowadays. We just have her for editing, so she's good. She's good. Anyway, Joe, what do you think about all that? Any questions about the Series X while we're kind of on it?
I don't know. I think I got all mine out. My whole concern is getting all my stuff over on there and
It's
being
easy.
able to get after it.
Easy
Yeah.
peasy. This question came in, Joe. This will be the last big one that we do, and it's kind of a long one, but it came in a while ago, and I feel bad because I didn't get to it earlier. So I apologize, Fragaden. But this one's from Fragaden. And this talks about crunch and hypocrisy. Joe, are you ready for it? My question is with the hypocrisy in the gaming industry as far as expectations and demand on product quality and availability. We've seen a lot of accountability demand recently, for examples with CD Projekt Red and their recent allegations of unfair crunch time being forced on employees. However, I see this strictly applied to development, but not manufacturing. When any major when any major console is announced, or computer components such as NVIDIA's 30 series graphics cards, there is massive criticism on the availability of these manufactured products. While they are correct to be upset at the limited number of units available at launch, I feel this expectation demands a resolution, such as a crunch or overtime. Being overworked is never fun, but many take it very differently. Some see it as overwhelming and unfair, and others see it as a hurdle with a much bigger reward in the end. It'd be nice for crunch to not be a thing, but I do feel that the ones who raise a flag over the issues, they being the consumer, are also the ones who indirectly cause it to happen. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Not sure if I've mentioned this before as a podcast question. I know it's been on my mind for quite a while. That's such a good question. So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's we as the consumers that are causing crunch to happen in the first place. You know what I mean? Because it's like you want to get this game, you want to get it out, you want to make it perfect, but you also want to get it out in a timely fashion so you can get out there and make you money, right? That's gotta get out there because it's a business. We're running a business. I don't know, man. That's a great point, because we're so like we need, and then the second we get the thing, we talk about it for like a week or two, and then we're just on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Where people's like lives, years of their life poured into this product trying to make it perfect, and for them, a lot of it's like once they release a game, that's just kind of the beginning because they have to support it, or they choose to support it for years and years, like the games as a service games. I don't know. It's kind of fascinating. Joe, what do you think? How do you feel about that?
I don't think we necessarily drive that whole crunch time thing for the actual companies or the producer of the games and such. I think, you know, as with any company, any project, there's a reason there's project managers involved. It's just like construction. First thing I'm doing is I'm putting together a project. Excuse me, monster burps.
Hashtag not sponsored, but we'd sell out in a second for Monster if you guys want in.
Yeah. Anywho, first thing I do, I create an overall project schedule. We got to know the time frame of this sucker. Everybody that wants to put a number to it, everybody that's a part and piece of the puzzle, has to know the time frame, where these parts need to fit into the project, etc. So I mean, say for example, CD Projekt Red. What was the recent game that they were pushing? What was the thing?
Cyberpunk.
That's them.
Yeah.
Okay. And there were rumors of them being overworked and such.
Yes.
To try and get this thing out.
But the weird thing is that in Poland, or at least with this company, I shouldn't say just Poland, because you're talking about a different part of the world, but that company, I think there's profit sharing in it. I'm not saying that justifies it. I'm just saying that could be a cause for some of the people to be like, yes, let's try to get this thing done and out there, Anyway,
yeah. I mean, well, hell, freaking, hey, my company has profit sharing for construction. I mean, yeah, there's incentive there to a certain degree, but what's being overworked means poor performance and poor quality.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, your reputation counts for quite a big chunk, because that means that your next game is going to be less trusted by the consumers and therefore less purchased.
Yeah.
Which eventually leads to less work and less potential for employment at the company. Yeah, there are all sorts of effects, but I just don't think there's pressure from the consumer once a schedule is announced. I mean, Halo, Cyberpunk, yeah, we're going to release on November 10th, or this is going to release with the Series X. It's like everybody's like, oh my God. Yeah, and everybody's tweeting about it, and social media makes it blow up even more than it ever would have. So I think that adds pressure. But there's all these other variables that weigh in. So in the example of Cyberpunk, let's say, and we don't know it all, but they had a release date, arbitrarily, we'll say November. What was it?
Oh, I forgot. They pushed it back so many times, though. They pushed it back 2 or 3 times, so it keeps.
Okay, so we'll say there was a release date of November 10th yesterday. All right, boom.
Oh, it was the 20th
schedule
or something. Sorry.
Okay, November 20th it was slated for. That schedule was set in stone from, the second the project was announced internally to the teams, and then it was sprinkled down through the ranks at the company, through the internal teams on development and all this. That schedule, boom, we have to have this thing produced and out by here. In between the start and finish date, there's all these tasks, the rendering, the story art, the this and that, and that sort of stuff. So each one of those tests, they're analyzing that. Are we hitting our marks? Where are we against this test? Where are we against this one? And I'm sure that with a game, there's probably everything is overlapped. It's probably all at a similar starting point for the most part, with a lot of overlap. And so they're constantly analyzing that. And then when they get to the end, say they're nearing the end, they think, okay, we think we have a complete package here. Let's go through a review process, which is probably a task in itself, testing, etc. Issues. There's always going to be. Hopefully you think that they have one final task that is like a punch list. Like, does it meet our expectations? What's wrong? Here's our time frame to go back and fix. Right? Details. Well, we assumed that we would only need 1 month to do that chunk of work. Well, it ended up being 2.5. Okay, now we're hitting 3 months. Okay, we've kicked it back twice now. So I'm sure there's a lot of rhyme and reason and workflow to it that derives all that, and in a level of standards. Yeah, they have the pressure from the consumer, but they also know the backlash that they'll get from the consumer, not only on the game itself with poor word of mouth and reviews, but also less sales on the next game because your clientele does not have the
faith.
There we go.
Yeah.
Faith. Getting religious on you.
Getting religious.
Faith.
Yeah.
Gotta have faith.
Well, and too, we talk about, like I said, it's a business, and I think this one specifically, This this game Cyberpunk. If we could talk about other games too, this one's been in development for like 7 years, and I understand from a business standpoint where it's like if you have a game that's in development for that amount of time and you've just been pouring money into it, you haven't been getting money out of it. That's kind of the frustration, is where you can't keep doing it until it's like completely flawless in every possible way, perfection. Like, because that's the thing too, is like you could just keep delaying it, then people get really frustrated with you and be like, whatever. But when it comes out, if it's really amazing, then people, like you said, word of mouth, it's going to do well. But
Yeah. Are there any in-game transactions or money-making
I don't believe so.
methods within game?
I think they said that there weren't going to be any of those because they're CD Projekt Red is one of the few kind of developers that has been really known for a long time of trying to put the consumer first. So, for example, their whole kind of distinction between an expansion and DLC. Downloadable content to them is something that is like usually free for everybody, and usually that would manifest itself in something like Witcher 3. They'd be like, hey, there's a new DLC pack, it's some new swords and some new outfits for Geralt, that's for you. There you go. It's kind of like Monster Hunter, where they're just like, here you go, take this. Whereas like an expansion for them, like or like with Monster Hunter again, like Iceborne was like a paid expansion, where it's like, all right, if you're going to buy something from us, we want to make sure it's something that's worth your time and your money.
Big enough to justify.
Yeah, and so they've had a lot of goodwill because of that for a long time. Now, like I said, this game has been kind of different. It's completely different than what they're used to working on anyway, and they've been pouring money into it for years and stuff. And then there's like, you want to talk about management, because you said a really good point there, Joe. Sometimes you hear these stories of like, they haven't been in crunch for 6 months, they've been in crunch for 2 years, and you're like, how is that even possible? Like, like if that's true, because it starts to sound like there's an issue with like expectations versus like results, or like, if you're going to make these people work 6 days a week for months and months and months and months, I don't know. It saddens me, because like I don't want to think there are people out there sacrificing time with their families or doing other things that they love.
Well, start a project behind and you have an end date that's not negotiable, and yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a tricky
you
situation.
Find creative ways to make it up. So if they've been behind and on a time crunch for 2 years, it means that it was very that they were very stringent on themselves, and that we got to meet this date, especially with the release of the new Xbox. It'll drive our sales up, by another 10%, and the game is everything. But you can also tell, okay, we've pushed the release date a couple times, 3 times, what have you, because there is no in-game transaction type stuff, so there's no other moneymaker there. It's literally copies sold, and if there's more bad reviews than good, there's always going to be a couple, but you need the general populace to say good things, and if they don't, you do poorly, and that 2 years of development and creation was shot.
Yeah, and I'm speaking in generalities. Not that Cyberpunk has had 2 years of crunch. I think it was more recently that they came out, or people were saying that they've been working like 6 days a week for longer periods, like a little more recently. And again, going back to that whole like the profit sharing thing, because it makes sense as an incentive for a business to say, hey, the sooner we get this out, the less money and time we have to go into paying everyone here to work or to pour money into assets and all this stuff, and that can be more money for everybody else when the game hopefully turns a profit. The thing for me is like, I get they have to kind of announce these dates, but at the same time, I would almost just be like, you know what, just like, if you're worried about it, and I like the delayed game, remember, it can be good eventually, but the rush game's forever bad. I get it. I 100%. But if you're doing something real ambitious, just you don't feel like you have to put a date out unless you're like once you've gone gold with the game, then you maybe can start being like, you know what, now we're gonna announce that date. Because I think with Cyberpunk especially, or Halo Infinite, you could announce that game's coming out in a month, and I know there's more logistics behind it, right? But if you had it behind the scenes ready to go, and you're like, you know what, it's coming out in 1 month, people would be losing their minds. People would be like, perfect, that's great, it's back in my head. Like, I don't think you need to do this like it's going to be out in 6 months, because most games now that you see trailers of, they're like, it's coming out in 2022. You know what I mean? They'll say like a quarter. They're like Q3 or spring, and you're like, okay, that's so vague, right? Like they have to be vague because they don't want
to keep it vague because they can't promise a completion date.
Yeah, exactly. It's like with Suicide Squad.
Pinpoint it.
They like showed off Suicide Squad, and I think that was maybe 2022 from Rocksteady, and it was just like, so that could not even be 2022. You know, they could be like, that was our original date, then we pushed it into 2023. So what I'm saying is, to our dear consumers out there, I think you're right, Joe. You make a good point. They put pressure on them. They may be not the only reason why, but there's obviously like a demand. You know, that's part of it. Yeah. And there's a difference between gaming, you know, copies versus like PC components, as Fragden was talking about here. But you know,
does anybody own CD Projekt Red?
I think they're their own. I think they publish their own games. I could be wrong about that. Okay,
so it's not, you know, owned
by
Microsoft.
It's not like a 2K situation or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. What was I gonna say? Oh no. My train of thoughts pulled out of the station. No. What I was gonna say is this. I appreciate when they're trying to make something ambitious, but I also respect when they have to delay a thing. It's unfortunate that like people get frustrated. I just want people to remember that as consumers, we're very lucky. We get to benefit from thousands of hours of people's lives they poured into a thing that we might play over a weekend and never talk about again, or speak poorly of, or whatever else. But like, remember how privileged of a position we are in as consumers, and to not take it too much to heart when something gets delayed, because it is not the end of your world. You might think it is, but it's not. It's okay. You can wait. It's all right. If someone hadn't brought it up to you, you probably wouldn't have noticed. Like, that's what my thing is. Like, I think about these things. Like, Joe and I were looking into a game recently, and I looked down like, oh, it's supposed to be coming out soon. And it's like a few months delayed after that. And I'm like, well, I guess I wasn't thinking about it until now. Now I'm like kind of frustrated that it's not coming out really soon, but like it's still coming out kind of soon. I don't know. Just practice patience and kindness. That's what I say. Joe, what do you think?
Shut up, you're not my mom. I want it now.
You need it now, dude. It's not want, need. You need it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Is there anything you want to add to that? Are you good?
I mean, it was quite the question. Probably just as long as our responses, but interesting nonetheless. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some shared. I mean, there's so many variables impacting that, and it can really shift any which way. But I think a lot of explanations as to why and where and when and what. But yeah. No. I like analyzing the business side of it a little bit.
Sure. That's the interesting thing about like art and business. I think we talk about that a lot here too, is like when you're making a game or a movie or whatever, that's artistic to a certain degree, but also it's a business because it needs to make money. Like, they wouldn't keep making the MCU films if there wasn't money in it. Like, if they kept taking losses, they wouldn't be like, this is our artistic vision, we're gonna have them fight Thanos. So and they'd be like, we're bleeding money. We coming in at a loss in every movie. They're like, we're gonna get to Thanos in like 20 movies. They'd be like, cut it. No, we're done. Let's get out of here. So I understand it. But there are a lot of talented, great people who work behind the scenes of these things. So I try to remember them too, because it can't be easy. And man, there's so many people working these things, Joe, that we just never know. We don't know their stories. We don't know. We barely know anything about them.
Stay and watch the end credits. Pay your respects.
That's what I always do. And it's also a great place to listen to all the great music in there, too, like in a game. Because like sometimes in a game, you don't get to hear all the good music. Like, just to sit there and listen to it. Ah, man, it's so good. We love you, game devs. Keep it up. Yeah, that is a really interesting question. I share that with everybody else, too. Like, if you have an opinion or feedback on that, please let us know, because I'd be so curious to hear what you think about all of it. Or if you have someone who works in the industry, or if you work in the industry and you're listening to this, well, hi, and what your thoughts are on it, because we could talk about it from consumer aspects, but like, well, Joe, we're just like two dumb guys who like playing games and watching movies and stuff. It's not like we're in the trenches like making these things. I couldn't imagine like trying to make one of these games and they're like, well, we're delaying it again, and I'd be like, does that mean we get to have like not 6-day work weeks? And I'd be like, no. And like, ooh. Like, please. Yeah. Anyway, Joe, I think that's enough questions for today. I think we need to wrap up with a little segment of the show that I like to call, that you like to call, that we like to call.
We all like to call Time Killers.
That's right. It's time for Time Killers. It's the games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, the TV shows we've been viewing. Joe, what are we going for? Right. What have you been killing time with?
Had that in that last little blood curdling
Yeah.
moan.
Dang. Yeah. It's.
Um, killing time. Killing time. Straight up murdered time.
Yeah, man.
Murdered it.
Yeah, dude.
Look at my eyes. Look how red they are in this light. Like it looks like I haven't slept in weeks.
Hasn't slept in weeks. Gotta get that KDR up.
No, it's not that. Anywho, I haven't played since Saturday.
What? What did you do with Joe?
For reference, today is a Wednesday.
I was gonna say
Oh,
today
God.
is Sunday when we're recording this. No, it is Saturday.
I just need a little bit, man. Just
Yeah,
a little bit, just like half an hour, a couple matches. I don't know.
Yeah, just like one or two drops in, baby.
No. Yeah, time killers. I think as of late, gotten into a couple things. Some things are just mentionables that I've come across. Maybe just worth airing out on the podcast. Nothing that I've actually delved into,
Air 'em
but
out.
things that I've discovered that I'm going to delve into and kill time with. So maybe a little preemptive um, discussion. But anywho, most recently, I finally got access to Amazon Prime. Obviously, Jimmy and I have had the recent podcast on like The Boys
The
and things of
boys.
that nature. Thanks to my sister for access to her account. She's a gem. I started watching, in fact, just last night. Haley and I were looking for something to just kind of wind down the evening with, and we watched the show called Upload.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Have you watched it at
Yeah.
all? You have,
Yeah, I've
really?
watched it. Yep.
So I think just one season out right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna go by quick. I can tell because they're like half-hour episodes.
Yeah, it's
if
quick.
that.
It's quick.
So, but entertaining. I mean, you initially lean into it, and you're like, okay, what's it gonna be? But it's I mean, it's creative, and it's not only that, but it's semi plausible. I mean, who knows? One day that could be a legit thing.
Yeah.
And it's a gosh darn shame. Um, not the yeah, and I guess for those wondering, Upload Amazon Prime original series, and it's basically based on the premise that you can, when you die, you set up a plan, and you can literally, it's like a cell phone plan essentially, and you can upload your consciousness into virtual realm. Um, and so like loved ones can communicate with you, things like that. Essentially, you never really die, but you're in virtual world, and it's a little weird, but it's also presumed to be like paradise. But that's only if you have the unlimited data plan
Yeah.
or a high amount of gigs. So it's like the old cell phone days where, and some people may still have this. Where you're limited on like you only have 2 gigs a month, and I mean you can burn through 2 gigs in like a week, right? So there are people that can barely afford it, but they want to upload their consciousness to just have to be able to continue on, kind of a thing, consciously. So there are like 2 giggers that are down in the basement of this like heaven of sorts, and they basically, if they want to read a book but they want to get to that next page, they got to pay for it, but they can't. And like, so if they run out of gigabytes at the end of midway through a month, they basically freeze in digital world, and they re-up the next month and start over. But and everything is like a in-app purchase kind of a thing. Like, oh, you don't really need to eat, but you feel the need to. They program that so that you can feel as natural as you used to. And so like the mini bar in your apartment room has anything you could ever want. But oh, you want that cup of coffee in the morning? That's going to be $3, sir. And it virtually pops up okay and stuff like that. So it's like even when you're dead, they're making money off of you. It's very interesting. It's something else, and the way they figure out ways for the dead to be able to um, communicate and even like physically interact with the real world living people and stuff like that. It's really freaking weird,
Yeah.
but it's cool. It's creative. It gets you into it. You get sucked in a little bit. So I like it, and it's not like it's overly lengthy or too talky. it's enough, right?
Sure.
And it doesn't, tire you out. So it's kind of fun. Um, I think good characters overall and things like that. So I think if you're looking for something, I think it's a good one to kill a little time with and check out at your leisure. Other things, I started watching The Expanse on Amazon this
Mhm.
past weekend or the weekend before, something like that. Anywho, kind of interesting. I know there's a book series on it, and the show differs from it just a little. Um, Essentially, people are kind of explaining it to be kind of like Game of Thrones in space a little bit.
Okay.
It's like Earth, Mars, and there's like some sort of race that was born off planet, and they're all like warring factions, kind of a thing. So um, it's kind of interesting. I'm only like 4 episodes in, maybe three, but I may go back to watch a little bit more of it. Not quite Game of Thronesy yet, but my friend Drew, our friend Drew, tells me there's more to come. So he's on like season 4. Apparently, it's pretty good. So might soldier on through that and see if I get sucked in some more. Um, as far as watching, I think that's about it. So to go with our talking points and things we discuss, music is one that we don't get into all too often.
Oh.
Um, I would like to bring up recently. I really got into, I'm kind of a rock guy. I think Jimmy, you and I, we share some musical taste
Yeah.
for sure. We've
A
gone
little
to a
overlap.
couple Korn concerts together,
That's true.
Slipknot, um,
A couple
and
corn concerts together. That's true. You're
yeah,
right.
we've been to a couple Korn concerts, no thing,
I've seen Jonathan Davis play a bagpipe
Yep, twice.
twice.
Yeah, it was badass. Anywho, but so we have similar music tastes. I think maybe I blur I venture off the path a little more so than you. Um, so I guess getting to my point, Marshmello, the DJ,
Oh yeah.
which I think is maybe even more of a sting to him than anything. DJ, yes, but I think there's more to him than that.
Okay.
I
Victory sip.
No, I he has so much content out there. It is insane.
Mm.
He started out as a little unknown. His identity is known. Like people have put it together and figured out who he actually is, which is almost like a major spoiler. Like you regret knowing after you know. Not that he's a bad person or anything. It's just it's weird. Like it takes the mystery effect away a little
Mm.
bit.
Mm-hmm.
But Marshmallow, he's the guy with the cylinder for the head, the black X's with the smiley face. People always tease like rip off of Dead Mouse. So no, not really. This is something originally he came up with on his own. Reason for the helmet is like an identity thing. Wants the music to do the talking, but also good marketing, and also creates essentially a symbol or character for people to identify with and look up to, because he does a lot of YouTube content that's his music speaks for itself, but then when he takes and puts the actual visual art to it with videos and things of that nature, it really it makes it something more.
Mm.
And So I don't know. I encourage people to check it out. Maybe you're not into EDM or anything like that, and I wouldn't even
Oh.
call it that. His is like future bouncy EDM. It's different because he blurs the lines a lot. Like he may do it may have more of an EDM vibe sometimes, but then it'll blur and be something a little more rockish, or sometimes maybe it blurs into the pop scene. Obviously, why he's able to collaborate with so many different artists and do so many different styles, but still have that little bit of injection of his identity on there,
Mm.
or recipe, so to speak. It's really cool, and I think he's under the age of 30, so he's like Forbes 30 under 30 or whatever. Um, like he's made a hell of a career out of not much, and his manager and stuff, they help, they came up with these ideas and things like that. He's also maybe even more than a lot of artists, I see little tidbits of him being involved with like charitable things and like beyond meet and greets, like out of his way to go, you know, and
But his music's good too.
yeah, well, I mean, clearly,
I
but
was gonna say, like, it sounds like you watched a documentary on Marshmello.
there was a little bit of a thing on his YouTube, and I checked it out. It truly is interesting. But he's more than a DJ. Like, I mean, he's classically trained first off, and then he also can play pretty much any instrument. And he even learned to play. I forget what it's called, but it's a particular type of like Indian drum,
Hmm.
from India, and he got involved. He did a collaboration with an artist over there, did a song, and filmed a video and everything. But he went there, and I mean, he doesn't talk, right? So like he is that character when he's out. The only time he talks is when he's doing a show. He'll say things,
Sure.
but that's the extent of it. Interviews, he's either writing down or he has like a transcriber thing. That's kind of cool.
Hmm.
All the and it just creates a thing where he is kind of who you want him to be. And so I see why he identifies with even like the young crowd, but also like older generations, I think, can get into his stuff. But um, yeah, so he goes there, and this producer in India, he's like, he, his manager's like trying to communicate for him, and he's like, oh well, he can play that, and so he hands over the drum, and sure enough, he goes to town on this Indian, like very what do you call it, traditional
Hmm.
instrument, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just doing it up, and it's very cool. Somebody that, I mean, he puts a lot of effort into those things. But I also kind of got into his stuff through streaming. So, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, you watch everybody but me, Joe."
I didn't
Not
say it.
true. Not true. I tuned into the stream the other day for Watch Dogs. I try. Anywho, but he's big into like Call of Duty. He does like the charity tournaments and things like that. Plays with a couple guys that I watch now and again, and talks on there and stuff, whatnot. But most of the time, streams with the helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
but but so he's really into video games and things like that. So that's kind of how I discovered him. And then hearing him talk and stuff. I mean, he's kind of he's alright, like a year or two younger than us, but he just seems like a cool, genuine guy. But not only that, but smart, respectable. He's not just, he's not your typical living large douchebag kind
Sure.
of thing. So I kind of appreciate that about him. But so I've been into his stuff, and I mean, the second you go into the rabbit hole of all his content, I mean, the playlist is there, baby. You just keep going and going.
Hmm.
You put on a pair of skull candy crushers,
Gosh.
turn the bass up, and just
Not sponsored, but we would be.
I totally hit us up. Skull Candy, love it. But yeah, I don't know. Just fun vibes, and there's something about his style that just, I think, brightens your day a little bit. And everybody's probably heard his mainstream stuff that makes the radio all the time, but he's got some older stuff that came out when he was just started. And then he's also got like there's live shows on YouTube and stuff, and you listen to that, and it's just it exudes good vibes, man, and I kind of like it. It's
Hmm.
kind of amped me up during a tough time at work where I'm pretty freaking loaded down lately. So I just plug in, get to work, baby. You know. So yeah, that's nice. I know that was long winded, but I mean, for anybody listening that's into music, I mean, I'm sure you know who Marshmello is, but it's look into him a bit. It's actually kind of interesting, and that's with a lot of artists. But yeah, so I will stop there. That was what, half an hour. So
I like
there's my
15
time
minutes.
killers.
That's
I
good.
killed my time while talking about time killers.
Yep. Well done. That's very good.
On to yourself, Jimmy. What you been killing time with?
Well, I'm more of a Korn guy, so I was actually going back and listening to their album, The Nothing. It's really fun. And by fun, I mean kind of depressing and soul crushing, but there's something about it, man. Some of the beats in some of those songs, oh, so good. Anyway, I don't know what got me to do this. I think because it popped up on HBO Max, because they're like, hey, there's a new thing here, and I always love the new stuff. I went through, and I didn't watch the extended versions, but I watched the regular theatrical cuts of the Hobbit trilogy. You know what? Like one of these days, we've talked about this on the show in the past, like The Hobbit versus like Lord of the Rings. That was like one of my. I made that video so long ago, or did this video, and that was like one of our like most seen podcasts. But I, it's weird. It's like you can never go home again, right? Like they always say that like you can't go home because like you can physically go there, but it's not gonna be exactly the same. And that's like with Lord of the Rings. Like you can never recapture Lord of the Rings. You're just not gonna do it.
No.
Because like the way it was made, the fact that it felt like it was like a super big budget indie film that was like, you know, it just, and all the people that were a part of it, I don't think thought of it as much of like this is like a business thing. Whereas like with The Hobbit, I think one of the biggest reasons why it was greenlit and split up into 3 different films is that it was used to not only return to this place that we, like a lot of people love, myself included, but to understand what it could mean, you know, to make it into a trilogy as opposed to 1, maybe 2 movies. And, you know, I do like them. You know, there are things I'm not crazy about. There are some issues, right? But I still enjoy them. And you know, it might not be going home exactly again, but I just love being in that world. I just like going back to the Shire, you know, just like going through the various forests that there there in Middle Earth. I love the side quest stuff with Gandalf, kind of setting up Lord of the Rings. And for some odd reason, even though I know where Lord of the Rings goes, and Lord of the Rings was, you know, like 2 decades ago now, the setup to it always feels like, oh, this is like just starting. And man, like I don't know, I enjoyed it. It was fun, and there's some really cool stuff in those movies if you go back and just give it a chance. They added a lot, obviously, because each of them, like the theatrical versions, were all like 2.5 hours or longer, basically. But the ones that are extended, obviously, like add even more to that, which I need to go and check out. And the extended version, I remember for Battle for the Five Armies, I had to look this up. That one was rated R, and it's because it was like for some violence or something like that. So there must have been just a little too much violence in those extended scenes, which I was like, dang, I want to watch that one. But that movie, Joe, that last one still made almost $1 billion. I was like, oh my gosh, because I wanted to see if they like weren't making money on them, and I was like, no, they're making money.
The Hobbit.
Yeah, the Hobbit trilogy, they all did
Okay.
pretty well, all north of 900 million. The first one did the
Good.
best.
What's next for the Tolkien stuff? You think there's anything else coming out that I know there was the Amazon thing for a while that
Yeah.
were going to come out with like a series, which I
They're
don't know.
still working on that.
I
I
mean,
think
doable. I don't know how they're gonna do it. For some reason, Siri keeps popping up on my computer. I apologize. I
No,
hope
it's
you can
fine.
still hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. No, I
Okay.
think they're still working on that one, and it's a lot of it's due to the power vacuum that Game of Thrones has left, and I think a lot of people kind of clambered and tried to. It's kind of like, you know, when Jurassic Park came out, and I can't think of anything specific, but like the few years after Jurassic Park, there's probably like a lot of, you know, companies trying to be like, let's do dinosaurs, like dinosaurs, whatever it is, do dinosaurs, and I'm fine with that because I love dinosaurs. However, you're just not going to get like, you're not going to make that next Jurassic Park. Like you're not the trendsetter.
No.
You're kind of following it. So I'm
And
curious.
people see that too
Yeah.
easily and think, well, I've got my pedestal and here's Jurassic Park. What are you going to do to knock it off?
Yeah.
Nothing.
So
Nothing.
with like Game of Thrones, and I know that the ending kind of like frustrated some people. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I didn't. Maybe eventually, but I think that's where like a lot of like, you got your Witcher on Netflix and then like this show on Amazon. I don't know where it's going to go. I really wanted it to be like the Young Adventures of Aragorn or something, but I don't know. And I also don't know if they'd ever try to adapt some of the stories from the Silmarillion, which would be hard to do that whole book as like one movie because it's like I think it takes place over like thousands of years and it's like more of like a history encyclopedia, you know? So I'm not sure what they're going to do next, if they'll return to it at all, but there was clearly a love for it, and I'm just not sure if it's like, would they try to tackle it without Peter Jackson and his crew? Like, not the TV series, but like another movie. I don't know. And I know Andy Serkis took more of he was the second unit director on the Hobbit trilogy, which is pretty cool. So if they did go back and do some Silmarillion or stuff like that, I wouldn't be surprised to see him involved, even if Gollum is in it. Like, none. Like, is in it, not in it at all, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. I just like those movies. You could tell there's a lot of love and passion put into them, even with some of the kind of issues I think they had behind the scenes on the Hobbit trilogy. It still came together in a way that I've never probably would have been able to put it together. I'm just like, I'm just so impressed at how stuff like that still kind of comes together. And it was like it's like a 9-hour movie. It just kind of like, you know, just goes through the whole thing. And Wait, I guess it's eight-ish, something like that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. And that's pretty much it. Besides Watch Dogs, there's been a few other things, but nothing super crazy. Also, I neglect to do this all the time. I watch a bunch of stuff on YouTube. I listen to a bunch of other podcasts. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to be better about this, Joe. I'm going to start promoting other people that you should listen to and watch. And we had these people on last week, so I'm going to start with them. The Provost from Provost Park Pass. I love their stuff. Every time they put up a video, I'm usually watching it right away. They cover Disneyland, and right now, because Disneyland's closed, Disney World stuff, and I love Disney. We've been doing more Disney content on the channel. Check them out. Please subscribe to them if you enjoy them. Tell them Jimmy sent you from Critical Reviews, but, whoa, just threw my pen down. I love talking to them. I could talk to them for hours and hours, and they're super fun. And they're not only Disney. Like, that's what I like. Joe, we talk about this, like, when I have guests on the show, that person or those people don't only cover that thing on their channel. Like, that's not like, they don't just only do Disney stuff all the time. Like, so it's fun to talk to them about Indiana Jones, which is now Disney, but like, for a time wasn't. And just hearing about their other passions, that stuff I love to hear, because yeah, I just think it's cool. I think it's fun. So yeah, please go check out Provost Park Pass. They're fantastic. And they have a podcast now too. So if you want to get like their 23 to 27 minutes, they told me, like, they were talking to a podcast friend, Joe, who was like, if you're going to do a podcast, do it that long. And I told them, and apparently they've been getting this feedback as well, as like people want longer episodes. We do long episodes around here all the time. So like, I was like, a 23-minute podcast? I'm like, how do people do that? Like, like what? So when I told them, like, guys, I was like, you don't do whatever you want. I would just love it if they were longer. I was like, and they were like, what? You get sick of us talking? I'm like, no, you don't understand. If you listen to a podcast, it's not always just about the content. It's about the people who are behind the mic, and you're like, I can listen to this person talk for hours, because clearly you will. So check them out. They're on Spotify and Google and other places as well. So Pro Spark Bass. Tell them Jimmy sent you. Anyway, Joe, if people wanted to, send us a question or a topic, you could tweet at us, whatever they wanted. I'm a Jimmy Good 013. Yes, they sure could. Or at Go Critical, but they want to tweet at you. Let's see if you get it right this time. What's your Twitter handle?
It has recently changed.
Did you change?
I've updated my Twitter just ever so slightly. I've changed it to @JoeLever_627.
Oh, there we go. Now I'll have to change that. They still won't give me Jimmy Good, Joe, and there's somebody who's not using Jimmy Good on Twitter, and it's driving me nuts. Ugh.
Well, it's the handle. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Do I have to do that thing where it's like the famous people, where it's like it's the real Jimmy Good? Like, gosh. Anyway, it's so funny because it's a website that like it's risen to prominence obviously over time, and like you want that blue check mark, like you want to be acknowledged by the machine. Please acknowledge me that I'm the real person. Anyway, but yes, if you ever
Twitter
Joe, so it's JoeLever_627.
Yeah.
And that is,
I have to put an underscore in there. It makes it feel so official,
Yeah, if you're having a hard time spelling lever, it's just like beaver, only with an L. Huh? We still got it in there. I got it in there.
You got it.
If you want to support us, there's a lot of different ways to do so. We have a Spreadshirt where you can go buy some cool merchandise. We have TikTok and Instagram if you're into that whole social media stuff, just watching a screen while you're maybe watching another screen. It's very popular nowadays. I know I give my sister crap for it all the time. I'm like, hey, hi, I'm here. Like, it's just, I'll be like, we turned the TV on so you can watch this thing, and now you're on your phone. I'm like, but Katie's been killing it with our social media game over there, so please go check that stuff out. But we also have a Patreon if you want to support us, even as little as $1 a month. It goes a long way to helping us, but just sharing us around, that helps too. I know I do this call to action, but for the love of goodness, if anybody's made it this far, this week's hashtag is going to be #call to action. All right, let's see if anybody gets it this far. I think Ryan will. Ryan usually does. But we'll see if we get anybody else towards the end. Ryan. You know what I mean? I'm interested. I don't even know what the thumbnail for this is going to be, Joe. It might just be like a Series X and like Marshmello holding it. I don't even.
Oh, that's dope.
Joe's like, I love it. Perfect. Ship it. We're good to go. Anyway, thank you, Joe, for being on the show. I appreciate it. It was fun just chatting with you about the Series X and all this stuff. I hope one day you get a chance to get one yourself.
Fingers crossed, pal. It was a pleasure. I was glad to be on this week.
Always my pleasure. Always my pleasure. And for all of you, thank you for listening. If you did actually watch this on YouTube, Let us know in the comments if you listen to it. Please leave us a review on if we're on iTunes. I think we are. Or just let us know if you're listening to it. I'm just curious to know, because we have an audio audience now, Joe, which I've been foolish to not do the whole time, but they're out there. So to everybody who's listening out there, to watching, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye.
See you next time. Deuces.